Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Beverly is about to come on and blow your mind. This woman is a Feng Shui pro, and she's going to rock your world. So make sure you stay tuned. Let's talk about some announcements. Number one, for you out there, you are becoming your greatest possible self, okay? And I love you. I want to support you however I can, whether that's training you to become a guest on the 12-hour marathon, whether that is helping you launch your own platform and get your message out to the world, or just coaching to be your greatest possible self. Would love to talk to you about that. You can find me on facebook.com/th3burns or Instagram at IamMillionaireChris or email chris@beyourgps.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and we're going to have a lot of fun growing together. Next up is the iTunes review of the week, and this week it's by Miss Jen Hudgens. And Jen says, love this podcast. This podcast is so motivating. I love the caliber of guests and the energy Chris brings to the show each and every time. Thanks so much, Jen. I appreciate you. And if you want to give us a review, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes and give us a review. You'll have a chance of getting shouted out on a future 12-hour live stream all day long. So it's definitely an honor and a privilege because we shout you out all day long. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe. Look for the podcast, whatever your platform is, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts and listen to things or watch things. YouTube, you can watch these. Make sure you subscribe so you can get all the latest updates. We release an episode just about every day, so it's a lot of fun to keep growing together, and I look forward to continuing to grow with you. I'm going to introduce Beverly in just a second here. Before that, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes because these Feng Shui fixes could change the rest of your life. And I'm sure we'll go even deeper beyond that, talk a lot of different energy and being your greatest possible self and getting your environment and all aspects of life into alignment. So make sure you stay tuned because one of these ideas has the power to change your life forever. So let's introduce Beverly and we'll bring her on the screen. I am pulling up that intro, and my goodness gracious, Beverly Biehl is an energy alchemist, coincidence creator, and intuitive visionary. She uses a variety of tools to help her clients shift their perspectives on how their surroundings impact them. Simple things like improper desk placement, inappropriate headboards, and dusty piles of old paperwork can sabotage your finances, your love life, and even your health. She's been training with a variety of Feng Shui Masters ever since being introduced to the philosophy after a 2002 breast cancer experience. Beverly is based in the Austin, Texas area and has worked with many homeowners anxious to sell their houses or to establish strong boundaries for those with home offices. In addition, a wide variety of business owners have trusted her to assess their workplaces for problematic energy, from garage door repair companies, assisted living facilities, clothing designers, and home goods. Once people understand that what happens between their ears shows up in their physical environment, life has a way of showing what else is possible. Beverly, are you ready to rock the house, Superwoman?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
We are live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Thank you for being here. And we're going to have so much fun today. This is going to be a juicy, juicy conversation. Appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I was super excited to be introduced to you and to this magical power hour that you get, this power day.
Power day. That's right. That's right. I appreciate it. And shout out to Kadena. She is just such a powerhouse. And we're going to dive in deep in this conversation. We're going to start off with this question of money is blank. And Beverly, when you hear money is blank, what comes up for you, and how has that thought process, that question impacted your life?
Well, money has always been a bit of a challenge. I grew up as the youngest of a child of a family of 8 kids. Yes. And so growing up, money was scarce. And then going through all the church, Catholic church stuff, because, then, it turns out that money apparently was evil.
Apparently.
Now, when I hear that money is, I think of it as money is a tool. I also think of it as money is energy. Money is simply energy that has been, we have imbued this piece of paper or this coin with the energy of, it's a transactional item. It's not this horrible, evil monster ready to come and pounce on you if you don't do things just right. It's not this horrible, evil thing that is going to tear your family apart or wreck your health or make you more lovable. It's just a tool. And like any tools, you need to respect it. And you need to appreciate it and know when it's appropriate to use it and when it's not appropriate. Because sometimes, quite frankly, time is far more of a indicator of value than money is.
Wow, so powerful. I love you shared your journey with it, you share your relationship with it, and just like what's possible when we get into alignment with money and not treating it as some evil monster. I love that. That's powerful, Beverly. Thank you for sharing. And we're going to dive into a little bit more about you and how you serve your clients today. I mentioned a little bit about it in your intro, but just in your own words, how do you serve your clients and what do you stand for these days?
I began my journey with my Feng Shui strictly as just looking at how things were placed in the home or the office. It wasn't until 4 years after I began my first Feng Shui training that I thought, well, maybe there's something more about the stories that are surrounding you and what do they mean and why are some stories more powerful than others? Usually those stories, they have an attachment to some kind of an emotion, emotional reaction that you had to a certain situation, or they may even have a significance just as part of the family history. That's why antiques can be problematic, actually. If you think about, some people will pay lots of money for some famous author's desk or some business, some powerful business person's chair. It's because they want that energy. They have told themselves that if they're writing their novel sitting at Ernest Hemingway's desk, then they're going to also have the same success that Ernest Hemingway had. Okay, but if you got this belief in your mind that I really stink as a writer, I don't care what that desk is, whose desk that was. It's not going to help you because, Now, the reason why I will tell you, I did not exactly grow up in a family that really paid a whole lot of attention to energy.
Right.
I mean, I grew up as the daughter of a farmer. And so we paid a lot of attention to the weather, crop prices, things like that. But my dad was a water witcher. And he would be the one who would take these copper L rods and drive around a field until to find a farm, to find where the water was, a water vein. Now, once I finally started looking into energy and movement and how this all works together after I got that book on Feng Shui after I had that illness, I learned that money and water are like two peas in a pod, according to Feng Shui. And so I had no clue at the time that part of the money story in my family was that your gifts, the skills like that he had, he didn't value them. He never charged anybody for finding a water well, ever. And that kind of was encoded into my DNA to say that, my skills, my intuitive abilities, my transformational work wasn't worth any money. And so I really had to do a lot of work on myself to unhook from that type of beggar mentality in a way.
Wow, that's so powerful. And you shared so much there. And I love how you said money and water are tied together. And the thing that came to my mind is money. Another word for it is currency, right? Like currency or currency.
Oh my gosh. I've never made that connection, Chris. Oh my heaven. Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's like mind blowing.
Because I've had many clients. They'll, because people typically contact me for three main reasons. Either it's a financial issue, they're having relationship transitions or problems, or they're having a health issue. So if you think about those three things, probably the number one is a financial thing. Either they want to get a promotion, or they can't seem to stop the money leaks in their house, or just something doesn't feel right for them. They're feeling stagnant and stuck. And the first thing I ask is the toilet seat down? The second is the toilet, does it have a slow drip? Because, you can go and you can, jiggle the handle and make it stop, but there's always that extra little drip, drip, drip. Wow. So the reason why it's important to have the toilet seat down, and that's one of the most common things that people share online, that if you Google anything about Feng Shui, is because you have this open drain. And money, I think of energy, like the chi, as a little 5-year-old child with ADHD and super curious. Hey, I want to go look. Okay, well, what's the first thing a kid's going to go do? They want to go look at themselves in the mirror. And so water has this reflective surface. So now you think about this little kid looking into this toilet, fall in. It's like, ooh, look, it's me. There's somebody that I'm going to play with. Not knowing that it's just water. They fall in and then they get flushed away. So that's why you keep the toilet lid down.
Wow. This is so much. You have so much wisdom, and this is going to be a fun conversation. You mentioned, relationships as a big thing for you. I love that, and I want to dive into that. Before we go there, though, I want to go back in your journey, because you discovered Feng Shui as out of a very particular, challenge and obstacle and gift, opportunity, whatever we want to call it, in your own life. So take us back there, Beverly, and share about what that was like and how you grew through it.
Okay, so I was 36 years old with no family history of breast cancer, and next thing I know, I wake up and it feels like I've got an ice pick stabbing me in my left breast. And let me tell you, that's not the kind of wake up call anybody wants. It ended up being cancerous. I went through 8 rounds of chemo, 2 rounds of surgery, 33 radiation treatments. Wow. I think you and I were rocking the same hairstyle there for a while.
Wow.
And so that was, realized it was very cold. I understand now why bald people, especially men, wear hats, because it's cold. Oh my gosh. But anyway, one of my neighbors gave me a book on Feng Shui just because he'd been interested in it. She'd been reading it and kind of playing around with it. And she thought, well, maybe this will help you regain your health. Just doing a few little things in the book. Next thing I know, crazy coincidences start happening. I was focusing on the wealth sector, and because again, we had good insurance, but cancer treatments are not cheap. Right. Neither is transferring over, a family of 4 over to an entirely organic lifestyle. Wow. And I also was going into all kinds of alternative healing methods, just because you finish with the treatments and they say, okay, well, go have a nice life. And you're like, I don't even have a clue how I got this. How do I stop it? How do I not get that? Right. And they're like, well, I don't know. That's your deal.
Yeah.
So I did 2 things. The first thing I did was I took a picture of what I felt like great abundance for our family, which was we had lived in Utah and just loved living there. We were in the Dallas area, when I was going through all this stuff, but we were living in Utah. We loved all the mountains. So I thought, okay, that makes me feel very safe, very abundant, very healthy, very nurtured. Hung that in my wealth corner. And there was another little tidbit in the book that suggested if you take people who are quarreling a lot, you take their pictures and put them face to face and then tie a red string around it 9 times as a way to seal their energy together to help them find a better way to communicate. Wow. And so I did that because my 2 kids were young. I mean, come on, they're 7 and 9 at this point. Or excuse me, 6 and 8. Yeah. And within 2 days of doing that, my children had stopped arguing, and 2 people called my husband up out of the blue. He hadn't spoken to these folks in well over a year. One guy was actually over 2 years. both of them had job opportunities for him.
Wow.
Because I was wanting more money for the family. Yeah. And in the grand scheme of things, we had decided, okay, no, really, we like the situation we have here. He liked working from home. I liked having him around to help with the kids. And as we were coming to this conclusion, we were hanging a mirror in our career and life path sector, which again is all about getting clarity about, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? What's the next step?
Wow.
And the next day, I kid you not, his boss at the company that he was working at said, I'm sorry, we can't offer you more money, but we've got this new position that involves training and producing webinars. Would you be interested in doing that? And he's like, yes, because he loved doing that. He's a teacher at his core. Yeah. And so it was just like, okay, that's it. I'm hooked. Wow. If I can do this just by reading this one book, it was called Move Your Stuff, Change Your Life. Karen Rauch Carter is the author of that. And I actually did some mentoring with her down the road. But here's the thing, Chris, 2004 and 2019, that's a lot of time. I certainly have not let my Feng Shui skill set get dusty. Right. Because, you were talking in the intro about piles of paper and things like that. It's never, that's continuing education for anybody is vital. 100%. You cannot let dust settle on your skill set, because your skill set is what makes you the money. Your skills and knowledge sector, which is the northeast section of your home, that is your immediate money magnet. You start to activate that with bringing images of mentors in, pictures of mountains, anything earth, like a terracotta pot with some flowers or something like that. That is going to activate your skills and knowledge sector so that you can start, the things that you need to enhance your career, they're just going to show up like just poof. It's happened so many times. It just, gives me goosebumps. It's fun.
Oh my gosh.
So I first started out, Chris, with, first of all, again, I was trying to do all this studying, intensive studying with chemo brain. It's a real thing. It is not fun. Be patient with anybody who's gone through chemo. It lasts a few years. Not going to lie. It sucked. Wow. But I couldn't figure. So what I did is I just like all the balls were lining up. Everything was lining up for me to do this, what they call black hat form of studying Feng Shui. And that's where you take this 9 grid. It looks like a tic-tac-toe grid. And you take any space and you divide it into 9 equal sections. Each of those sections is corresponding with a different aspect of your life. And so when I'm going into a person's home and and I'm on the job, if I'm coming over just to say hi, I'm not looking at your house. I'm not assessing your property. That's rude, But anyway, so in the beginning of my career, I would take that Bagua map and it would line up to wherever the front door was. And that worked great until it didn't anymore, because I started realizing that I was actively working against the planet.
Wow.
I mean, come on, we've got a North Pole and a South Pole. There are compasses for a reason.
Right. Right.
So
instead of lining it up with the front door, you lined it up with the planet.
Exactly. Now, my clients still got great results with the old version.
Front door, right.
Because what I was doing to help them was more of the mental mindset shift with the coaching part.
Right.
Because again, we talked earlier about, this money and what is the money story. One of the examples that I'll use with to illustrate the mindset piece is, let's say you're in college. You just got your first apartment, finally out of the dorm, but you have no money to furnish this place at all. And you're driving by and somebody put a perfectly good coffee table out there.
Yay!
It has 4 legs and everything. And they're all, yeah. And so you grab it and you're thinking, this is the best. I've got the most abundant person in the world. Now, let's say, 5 years, or excuse me, 10 years down the road, you've now graduated, you've got a good job, you're now living in a house, and you still have the same coffee table because now you're afraid to go spend the money on a new one because you've got this perfectly good coffee table. Wow. I mean, it still has 4 legs, it still works. That symbol of abundance has now transformed into a symbol of lack. Wow. That story needs to be changed by either getting a new coffee table or exercising your creativity and fixing it up into something different.
And so, Beverly, I want to be clear because this is super powerful, and I'm sure people are going through transitions like this. What happens between the time that someone got it in college and then the time 10 years later? Have their values changed? Has what's important to them changed? Has their financial availability changed so that luxury back then now has a new definition? What changes?
Well, a lot of things can get triggered depending upon, are they having issues with maintaining employment? It may be that they still haven't been able to find the value within themselves, or they may have grown up in an environment where anything luxury, anything new was considered frivolous. And, why bother with material things? Because people who are materialistic, well, they worship that money thing because, money's this evil thing. And, so yeah, I have to find out within every individual, well, what is going on? What is it? What is that anchor that is keeping you stuck in this? Well, I'm so grateful that I got this free thing. I can't let this go. Because if I let that go, I may not have any place else to get new from.
So what I'm hearing could be a general pattern. I'm trying to go meta to help people understand what is happening. I think the soul and a personal evolution, it's like we grow accustomed and to like new things and to value new things, and it may be bigger, but it also may be smaller. Some people go from I want this big extravagant luxury life to minimalism, right? So, but there's an evolution of the soul, and so if something is out of alignment with who your soul is meant to be, who you're meant to be, and the best version of yourself that you come to know yourself as, and there's still things in your environment that resemble an old version, an outdated past value, completely different values person, then you're bringing that along and it's stunting our growth and stunting from being our best selves.
Absolutely. And again, though, there's one of the sectors in Feng Shui, though, is called family and ancestors. Okay. And that is all about honoring the past traditions. Looking at, well, where did you come from? What is the origin story for you, for your company, for your relationship, for the business that you're creating? There's always going to be an origin story. And it's really important to remember that the strongest tree has deep roots. And so, like I said, the coffee table is just a coffee table. It's just a thing. It might be that, okay, so now it may be that, okay, I now need to repurpose this. This might need to be the craft table for my children. Right. Now it's like, look, this is fabulous because it's still getting life. Yeah. It's when you are unwilling to part with something that is still so completely out of alignment. Because, I guarantee you, if you have that old coffee table, you probably still have the same sofa. And, 10 years of cheapo sofa, that means your back is hurting you too. So here's the thing, Chris, and I find a lot of my work lately lines up with this new field of science called epigenetics. You're familiar with that, right? Yep. Yeah. So, where you'll get this pull towards life being a certain way. and you know it doesn't really align with you, of what your goals are. Yet you almost feel like you're being disloyal to your family of origin if you decide to go a different route. I mean, I see this happening all the time with people who are changing belief systems or just moving to a different city, not even let alone a different country or state. Right. Changing the style of dress can also have hooks in you that they're just encoded in your DNA. And that's another beautiful thing that I help people with, is I help people unravel that. And then I will help them anchor that new version of themselves into their physical space, so that the thought processes will have a focal point to hold on to. Water fountains in certain spots, having different colors or shapes in certain areas, those are all great. But without having the story about why they're there, it just makes it a little less powerful.
Yeah.
So I love stories.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to be bought into the why and the energy of it. Like you said earlier with the desk, right? If you're not bought into you being a great writer, then a desk isn't going to do you much good. Same thing with, let's say a young knight who is like still learning how to swing the sword. If he gets Excalibur, he's probably not going to know what to do with it. But after enough training and having confidence in him, then he can wield that thing like a freaking powerhouse.
Absolutely. And that's why coaches are so important, because as a person is growing, they need to be able to know that they're being supported. So with Feng Shui, there are 5 elements, and you say water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. The most powerful element is water, which again is why money and water are so closely linked. But without a container, without that metal focusing, organizing energy, water's just a puddle. It's just a puddle. It's not a glass. It would just be a wet spot. And so all of that beautiful energy and focus, without having some kind of a container and a template to go by, it's just, you lose the power. You lose the ability to really get to where you're going.
It's like it's potential power, but it can't be activated unless there's the metal directing it, or unless it's already in momentum, being purposed some way, being directed.
Right. And so we'll go ahead and continue with this water metaphor with the glasses. So here's the thing that, like, when I'm working with somebody, I can almost always tell when they've had a massive transition, because the energy is sloshy. So if you think about it, if I were to take this and pour it into another container, it would take a while before it settled and before it were to become a calm, smooth surface again. And sometimes, when there are massive transitions, like for me, when I had that cancer diagnosis, it's like my entire being was dumped into a whole new container, and I had it was a hard thing to process. I just felt like I'd been hit by a truck. And when you take energy or a big shift like that, and you're pouring it into something new, there's a lot of sloshing, and there's going to be stuff that gets spilled over the edge. So, that's when people are going through transitions, I try to be very supportive of them and give them a list, like a bullet point checklist of, here's what will be beneficial for you to make, to make the adjustments in your space, but do it with, don't do it all at once. Give yourself, a month or even 2 months to make these changes, because if you make too many changes too quickly, you can make yourself sick. And I don't want anybody getting colds on my account.
Wow. And that's like, it's almost like it's in their best interest, but the detoxing period. You kind of need some time to allow it to slowly come out. And that's why if people like, if there's a really toxic body, if someone's like super unhealthy and they have a lot of toxins in their body, and then they do like, let's say a 3-day water fast or something out of nowhere, and they haven't been working out and they haven't been doing these things, and all these toxins become loose in their body, it like totally messes them up, and it can create that kind of sickness because their body's not ready to process that level of toxicity inside of it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and plus, who knows what kind of functioning their liver is able to handle. Right. I mean, if their liver, that could be the reason why they're toxic is because their liver's not handling things. And so, yeah, you need there's a stepping down process, incremental thing. I mean, you don't go from being a couch potato to running a marathon the next day unless you really want to. Well, you're just not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. So you end up just getting totally discouraged, and I mean that just breaks my heart when people try to go too much too fast. Yeah. So when I'm working with clients, especially when I'm it doesn't matter if I'm working with somebody on their space from the Feng Shui standpoint, or if we're doing the intuitive coaching aspect of things. I can tell exactly when enough is enough, because when I'm working with someone, our energy fields kind of merge, and so I'm feeling what's going on in their energy body, which often then it is completely connected to the physical body, because everything again starts out here in the ethers, and then it goes into the emotional, and then it gets into the physical. And so when I'm working with somebody, I can always start to feel things getting a little crispy around the edges in the etheric body, and then the emotional body, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, door's closed, you're done. I never quite know when that's. I never quite know when that's going to happen. But I honor that, because as soon as that happens, if you try to push, A, you're literally beating your head against a brick wall, and B, you're just irritating the client.
So this is powerful. This is powerful. And are you saying that like you give coaching to people, and sometimes they're just they reach a certain threshold in the time that you're meant to be with them, so to speak, in that season, and then they're like, okay, I'm no more uncomfort, no more pushing past this comfort zone. I'm staying locked here, or they'll start like retracting and shutting down and not being open to the coaching. Is that what you're talking about? And you get the intuitive hits from the energetic and ether bodies? Yes. Wow. Yes. And it's not necessarily that our coaching is done. It's just that particular issue that we'd be working on. Right. It's like, okay, I've only been able to handle this much, and no more. It's like, you go to a buffet, and you seriously cannot have even a wafer thin mint. That's it, done. Well, they're going to explode. Yes, that's a Monty Python reference. I love it. And I think a better, even more evolved is like, not better, but a different example would be at the buffet, if someone has a ton of steak or whatever, vegan green salad, you're like, oh my gosh, I've had so much salad, but then they go see the dessert and they're like, oh, it's the icing on top. Like, okay, I can make room for that, and it's like it's a different energy. It's a different thing that satisfies them when they were once closed off and kind of done with the salad and the green stuff, but then they make room for the dessert. Like, you just got to feel into what does someone want and need, and what's the next step that they're willing to take, and the next step in the dance together, Right. Well, and again, I do everything I can to be as respectful as possible, because I've had it work on me the other way, where I've had coaches and teachers keep pushing and keep pushing. All that really does is just irritates a person, and you start to lose trust that because what that is the body's boundaries. And if you keep trying to push back against those boundaries, yes, sometimes you need a like gentle nudge, because it may look like that's it, but after that little couple of gentle nudges, they're like, nah, we're gonna have to cut this out. We're gonna have to be. We'll table this for now. We got to a good starting spot. We're gonna now come back and revisit this issue later, but we'll come at it from another angle. Right. And I think it's it's like working a muscle, you can't keep working the same muscle, the same exercise forever. Like, you got to give it time to heal. You got to do different exercises, different like levels of repetition. Sometimes you might need 4 reps. Sometimes you might need like 15 or 20 reps, like depending on how experienced someone is or what their particular body needs. Like, everyone is custom to where they're at in their journey. And that's the power of having a coach, in my opinion, Beverly. Like, when you have someone like yourself who can be intuitive and take a look at the whole picture of someone's life and their environment and their mindset and their journey and their stories and all this, and put the pieces of the puzzle together to create a custom tailored solution for greater well-being, wellness, financial health, all of it, relational health, then that's so valuable.
Absolutely. And again, to go back to that weightlifting analogy, yes, sometimes some of the things that we're working on, they're relatively lightweight. And so you can get through a lot of stuff. You can get through a lot of reps. But for those times when you got to really power through a really deep entrenched issue or belief system, you can only do a couple of those. And but golly, it feels so accomplished when you can get those, and you just keep working your way through it. So anyway.
I love it. So awesome. So this has been super valuable. I want to talk about other feng shui fixes and things that we can do in our environment to really get more alignment. What do we need to be looking out for? What are some common mistakes that people are making or might be making? Tell us more about that.
For desk placement, the power position is when you have a solid wall behind your back and you have a clear view of the door. Who's coming in the door. You do not want to be lined up directly in front of the door, because that is like a fire hose of energy. And you're not going to get a lot of work done if somebody's constantly blasting you with water.
Right. Is this even if the door constantly remains closed, or?
Exactly. Because it's still pushing on you. It's still coming in from underneath. It's still coming around the edges. And so if you can just scoot yourself over so you're just slightly offset, that's the best. Now, I know a lot of people work in cubicle land, and people are working in cubicles. Of course, their back is going to be exposed. And the reason why that can be very challenging is you never know who's sneaking up behind you. And so it's just distracting. It's like, okay, so what do you do in a car when to see who's driving behind you? You look in the rearview mirror.
So put a mirror.
Go to the automotive department. Get a little rear. I mean, especially if you've got a stable monitor, get a little round rearview mirror thing and stick it on the top so that you look up and you can just see, oh, who's behind me? Nobody's behind me. So you're not having to twist your entire body around. If you're on your laptop, you can just get, again, one of those smaller, you can get something like a clip-on thing. I think they have some of those. I've seen those. I have to find a link. I can maybe put that in the notes. But that's something that you can do too. The other thing that people will do is they will, especially if they're working out of their home, they will put their desk up next to a window. So you're looking straight out the window, thinking, oh, it's so pretty. I can look out here and, guess what? That window, again, remember that little 5-year-old hyper child? What do you think they're going to want to go do? They're not going to
focus is all like pouring out.
They don't want to sit there and do work. They want to go outside and play. So you now have just taken all of your focused time and tempted that little cute kid with this beautiful outdoor setting. So you're not going to be getting the work done that you thought you were going to get your work done if you're staring out the window all the time. That's right. If you can just adjust it so that you can see out the window and see the door, then life is good. Because you are then command. The other thing too, from a little quick fix that a person can do is like with your bed. You again in the intro you were talking about the bed. If you're going to get to be the maximum benefit of your sleep, you want to have a solid headboard behind you. preferably made out of wood. Metal beds are incredibly cool, and they conduct EMFs, the electromagnetic frequencies. And so you kind of end up cooking in there. Dang. Plus, with they typically are having a lot of swirly things, swirly designs. Yeah. And so when you sleep, when you're awake, it's like we've got our energy body, it's tucked in. But when we're asleep, it kind of spreads out, just like the water, the puddle that we were talking about earlier. That's why you can dream, because you're letting yourself get out. Your brain, your consciousness no longer has to be stuck inside of your head. Wow. And so it's then getting fragmented as you are in that bed. That's why a solid headboard is so good. It helps to keep you, again, cocooned and supported. Right. It's also really important not to have anything underneath your bed, because, again, whatever that energy is being stored underneath the bed gets filtered up. If you have to have stuff under there, though, either put a red sheet on the bottom of your mattress to kind of as a stop sign to say, nope, you can't come up here, or put it on top of the items that you have stored under there. So there's this one story of a client that she called me in because she was having a lot of trouble sleeping, and just because of that, a lot of other health issues kept cropping up, and she was afraid that she was going to have to go in and get a hip replacement. She was my same age. I mean, it's like, what? I know you were a dancer, but really? So as we're in doing the conference, we were just doing this like this, just via FaceTime. Right. I had her show me, well, what's under your bed? She pulled out this plaster cast bust that someone had done of her like a couple decades, or like 10 years earlier, and it had gotten damaged during the move. Guess what part of that plaster bust was caved in? Yes, the same side of the hip. Yes. Wow. So, and she had been sleeping with that under her bed for a couple of years. Wow. And yeah, so she pulled it out, got it fixed, and suddenly her hip began to improve too. Wow. So, I mean, it still required a lot of physical therapy. It's not like it just went away overnight. Right. It's the energetic consequences and impact of things. They typically takes a while to build up, but then we see the physical manifestations of it, and we're like, oh crap. and then we look for solutions. Absolutely. And again, you know how I talked first, about the etheric, the emotional, and then the physical. It's like, think about a sticker. You can take the top part off, but if you don't actually, if you don't remove the whole thing from the root, the physical can't heal. Everything, it starts out here and comes in. This is the most dense energy, and so this takes longer to recover and to react once the emotional and etheric energies have been mitigated. Wow. Incredible. This is gold. This is gold. I know you work with a lot of people at their businesses, right? You go out into businesses and see what's going on there. Can you share a little bit more about some stories or examples of things that you've changed around for business owners? Yeah. God, I love working with business owners. I love it. I have such a passion for it because, number one, I mean, people spend so much time at work. Yeah. And yes, I want everybody to have this incredible, beautiful, supportive, aesthetically pleasing home. But when the business gets help, think about how many other people that impacts. So not only are you dealing with the business owner, but the employees, but every single person that comes into contact with that business, suppliers, et cetera. So I had this it was an assisted living facility that a friend referred me to because they couldn't keep a director of nursing. They kept just cycling through them, and they couldn't figure out why. I was able to help them identify some of the negative energy that had settled into that nurse's office. We did some work, or space clearing work around that, and then I looked at how, what was going on in the rest of the facility. And the way, first of all, some architects
Bless their hearts.
Bless their hearts. I just want to say, okay, I understand that you want to be creative, and do you know what kind of hell you just have unleashed upon these people? They had designed this with these, like the main nurses area was in the middle, and then they had these spikes of like the wards essentially, with this weird trapped triangular energy in between these wings, and it was just, oh my heavens. I just remember though walking around this place. I was so glad they called me in. Oh my gosh. Because not only did they have just, some just systemic issues just on the inside, but the exterior, like I said, there were all of these different things that were getting, all these areas of trapped energy, but they also had this big, like dip behind there with a big drain and a river, like a creek bed behind them. And turns out they had built this thing on an Indian burial ground.
Oh my goodness.
So I just remember looking and saying, yeah, that was a fun project. I love that one. But here's the thing that, Chris, that this was actually fairly early on in my career. And I definitely would have done some things differently now. But, at the time, I just was like, okay, I don't know what's going on here with this one particular wing, but you've got a cell phone tower right here. You've got a vacant land over here that is getting all kinds of activity and, not good stuff. And you have this other building up here that, is a church. And so to get to the graveyards, to the burials, they had to go past this facility. And so all of that sadness energy was coming down by them too. And I said, so I don't know, I'd be really watching the residents of this one wing, especially with that cell phone tower right there. I mean, right there. I still remember the manager of the place looking at me like, she just went white. In nursing home parlance, when they take a resident in to the hospital for one thing, and if they then discover like 4 or 5 other things that are wrong with them, they call those big bangs. Like, instead of a little like, okay, no, it's like, whoa, they're really sick. The number of big bangs in that wing were like 20% higher than in the other wings. And no, there was no difference necessarily. It wasn't like they put all the sick people on that side. It's just the ones that were there became sicker. And after I did the work that I did, that actually decreased. It was still higher. It was still not a great spot because, I'm sorry, there are just some things, you can only do so much with Feng Shui. But they got a stable director of nursing after the work I did. Their employee turnover reduced, and the general satisfaction level increased among the residents. And so they started getting more people wanting to bring their loved ones to the facility. So that was an incredibly gratifying experience. Some of the other things that I love doing with businesses is just making sure that, like, if there's been a contentious meeting. I do a lot of work with a company out of Dallas, Poopery. They do the toilet spray.
Yeah.
And so I've been working with them for 7 years now.
Wow.
And so I'll come in, and because it's such a dynamic company, there's always just fabulous things going on. And when there's a lot of transformation, sometimes that can mean that there's a lot of energy that gets stuck and left in the space. And so I'll come through, and on a regular basis, I come through and I do space clearing work. I'll do individual clearing work with the employees to make sure that they can stay focused on the job, whether it is, dealing with team issues, helping them to unhook from that, or if they're having personal challenges, making sure that connection is I can help them with that, because when you're not worried about what's going on in your personal life, you can be so much more impactful on the job. That's the kind of stuff that I love doing with businesses.
That's amazing. I love it. Beverly, this is gold. And I want to start wrapping it up and say, like, what is, one or two other big tips, things that you want to share with our audience before we wrap up?
Okay. Respect your money. And by this, I mean, women, do not put your purses on the floor. That is showing that, I'm willing to kick this stuff to the curb. No, you keep it in a place of prestige. And men, have a ritual at night of where are you putting your wallet? What are you doing with all of that? So make sure that you respect the carriers of that friend, the money friend. The other thing that I like to have people focus on too is, God, there's so many. Which one do I pick? The health. Again, looking at where are your priorities? Are your priorities, do you really need to watch that extra Netflix show? Or would it be not better for you to take a quick walk around the block? Go ahead and invest your time and energy in your physical body and your physical health and your mental health, because with the health sector is right in the middle. And so if you think about a wheel, if it doesn't have a wheel, you break a spoke, yeah, that's a bad thing. You break the hub, forget it. Done. You're not going nowhere. Right. And so, does that mean you need to go to the doctor and just get blood work done? Do you need to go see a counselor? Do you need to hire the coach or somebody to help you stay focused so you're not trying to be crazy? Do you need to hire an assistant so that you're not taking all of your time and energy in doing work that really is not your genius? What foods are you eating? How are you feeling about those foods as you're eating them? Are you doing this because of an emotion, something that you're trying to stuff from an emotional place? Or are you actually respecting the process and the people who are able to produce that and get it to you, from the seed to the farmer to the rain to the harvesters to the truckers that bring it to you, to the grocery store clerks that put it actually on the shelf for you? The whole thing. There's so many different layers of that. But that would be my biggest thing, is guard your health and make sure that you limit the news watching as much as you can, because if you find yourself getting triggered by that, that's not doing positive things either for you. It's good to stay informed, but it's not necessarily a great thing to let that trip all of your triggers, if you know what I mean.
Yep. I love this. Beverly, this is so great. There's just so much wisdom. I know we've only scratched the surface with this conversation. So people want to know how they can stay connected with you. How do they find out more? What are the next steps that they can take with you, Beverly?
So I have Instagram and my Facebook. They're both linked to The Intuitive Interior, and it's The Intuitive Interior, THE.
Okay.
And then the word intuitive, and then the word interior. Of course, you can get me, look at my website. When you first visit it, there's going to be a little box that comes up to get connected to me through a little survey. It's a little 5-element survey to see, what kind of personality profile do you have? Are you primarily a wood energy, a water energy, fire, earth, metal? How does that translate into your world and the things that you bring into your world? And the people that you bring into your world. Is fun working with couples because, they typically complement each other very nicely. Yeah, that's a whole separate thing we can talk about someday. But the other way that you can get in touch with me too is, again, like my website. So once that pops up, you can sign up for that, but you can also connect with me on my website. Okay. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I don't Twitter. I don't tweet. That's just one more level of, no. And Pinterest, No, too many. I get too distracted on that. So I have a Pinterest board. It hasn't been updated in years, so don't even bother.
Oh my gosh. So theintuitiveinterior.com, definitely, and on Facebook and Instagram at the Intuitive Interior. They'll find you there. And I love the quiz as well. Go take the quiz, everyone who's listening and watching. And Beverly, we're going to wrap it up with the final piece of wisdom and encouragement for our audience. We call it the minute to win it. Someone out there who needs to hear a message of inspiration, tapping into their intuition, into their greatest possible self. What do you have to share with them?
The thing that had really brought me the most comfort was because I'm a horizontal filer. I like to see everything in front of me.
Yeah.
When I finally realized that the piles were not a problem, it was the stagnation of the piles that was really the problem. That freed my soul like nobody's business. Number one, though, look around your space as if you were a brand new person. You'd never seen your house before. Do you still like it? You might be surprised that, oh, wow, I live in a really great place. And, oh, that used to bother me, but I can see how that would be really interesting. And just be kind. Be kind to yourself. We are all our worst enemies when it comes to self-talk. So if you wouldn't say it to your best friend or somebody that you didn't even know, don't say it to yourself.
Amen. Beverly, I've loved this. I know everyone who's tuned in has as well. Thank you so much for being here. Your energy, your wisdom, it's awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you bringing me on board, Chris.
You're welcome. We'll see you soon, okay?
Okay. Bye.